Welcome to industrial timber, where old saws, homemade splitters, raw steel, sharp blades, and serious wood processing ideas are pushed into real work. This is where rough machines prove whether they are useful or just dangerous metal. This old horizontal saw might look rusty at first, but do not dismiss it too quickly. Under that worn surface, there is still real cutting potential. With the blade kept clean, friction stays lower, the cut stays smoother, and the machine works with less resistance. A little turpentine oil can make a major difference, especially when cutting resin-heavy wood. Cedar sap can gum up a blade fast, so keeping everything lubricated is not optional. Cutting cedar shingles takes precision, patience, and a saw that is properly maintained. With the right care, even an old machine like this can still deliver clean, usable results. At first glance, the next machine almost looks too slow to be impressive. But that first impression changes quickly once the six-way splitter at the base starts working. With 200 tons of pushing force, it does not need to move fast to prove its strength. It drives through massive logs with calm, controlled pressure, slicing wood apart like the grain barely matters. That slow pace is deceptive. This is not weakness. This is pure power hiding in plain sight, doing the job without rushing, without drama, and without wasting motion. The first test of this 7-horsepower splitter went fairly well, but the design still needs refinement. The machine clearly has enough strength to split wood, but without extra chain support through the center, vibration could become a real problem. Over time, that shaking can damage components, loosen connections, and shorten the life of the build. Adding washing machine shock absorbers is actually a smart idea. They could absorb the jerking motion, smooth out the cycle, and make the whole machine feel more stable. Even with that issue, the splitter already proves one thing clearly: it gets the job done. Sometimes one simple design change can completely transform how wood splitting feels. This splitter uses a strong frame, a steady motor, and a clever pre-split blade to reduce the force needed before the main split happens. That matters more than it looks. By breaking the log's resistance early, the machine protects itself from sudden shock loads and makes the entire splitting cycle smoother. Instead of slamming into the wood with brute force, it works more intelligently. That is the difference between raw pressure and smart engineering. But smart design does not mean harmless design. Some of these machines are seriously dangerous if the operator loses focus for even 1 second. Fingers, hands, sleeves, and loose movement have no place near exposed blades, spinning parts, or splitting wedges. Protective gear, clear positioning, and full attention come first every time. A powerful homemade tool can be impressive, but it can also become unforgiving very quickly. Safety is not an extra feature here. It is the only reason the job stays under control. This homemade wood splitter is more than just a backyard tool. Built with a sturdy bridge and box-style frame, it combines practical engineering with raw mechanical force. The structure gives it strength, and the power system gives it purpose. Tough logs that would normally slow down manual work become much easier to handle. It may not look like a factory-built machine, but it has the one thing that matters most: it works. For firewood production, that kind of rugged simplicity is hard to ignore. Then comes another homemade splitter that makes the job look almost effortless. Logs go in, pressure hits, and within seconds they become firewood. There is something satisfying about seeing a rough round of timber break apart cleanly without the operator fighting it by hand. For anyone who burns through a lot of wood, a setup like this can change the entire workload. Less lifting, less wasted effort, faster output. That is why machines like this feel like a real game changer. Then, for a strange break in the action, someone decides regular pull-ups are not enough and does them hanging in midair. It has nothing to do with splitting logs, but the dedication is obvious. Next, a custom splitter mounted on a T40 tractor shows what happens when old farm equipment gets paired with practical wood processing design. With an electric motor and gearbox added into the setup, the machine turns into a faster, easier way to split logs. The tractor provides the base, the motor delivers controlled drive, and the gearbox helps transfer force efficiently. It is not flashy, but it is the kind of setup that makes sense for people who work with wood regularly. Veteran operators know that even a 1.3 kilowatt wood splitter can mean business when it is built correctly. Running at 680 revolutions per minute with an 80mm spindle, this machine can handle small logs quickly, but small does not mean safe. Shorter pieces can snap back harder than people expect. Hands need to stay flat, strong gloves are essential, and grabbing at the wood is a bad habit. A foot switch gives instant control, which is a major safety advantage. Rule number 1 stays the same: suit up, stay focused, and respect the machine. Believe it or not, the fastest woodcutter was built from scrap parts. No polished store-bought system, no expensive factory package, just reused material turned into a working machine. It can handle logs up to 13 centimeters, and when rough wood reaches the hydraulic setup, the real cleverness appears. A smaller hydraulic cylinder speeds up the process, giving the machine a faster working cycle. That is the kind of build that proves waste can become power when someone understands how force, speed, and design work together. Sometimes the best solution is also the simplest one. Using only a sledgehammer, this operator comes up with a surprisingly effective way to split firewood. No heavy machinery, no complicated hydraulic system, no motor roaring in the background. Just a clever idea, good aim, and enough force to make it work. It is not modern automation, but it proves that practical thinking still matters. For anyone wanting an easier way to split wood, the gear-driven splitter is a compact and effective option. It is small enough to fit into a backyard setup, but still strong enough to save serious effort. The design keeps things simple while delivering fast results. Small size, strong performance, and reduced physical strain make it the kind of machine many firewood users would want close by. Then the 2-ton hydraulic splitter shows what happens when serious pressure meets stubborn wood. Once the diesel engine starts working, logs that look nearly impossible suddenly break apart cleanly. The machine does not care about knots, density, or awkward grain. It applies controlled force until the wood gives in. That is the appeal of hydraulic splitting: steady pressure, repeatable results, and no argument from the log. Another homemade firewood splitter proves what careful building and determination can produce. This is not just a random pile of parts bolted together. It shows planning, creativity, and mechanical understanding. Raw scraps become a useful machine because someone knew what they wanted it to do. You do not need a fancy title to build something brilliant. You need patience, practical thinking, and a willingness to test what works. Then comes the dead wheel, a scrap-built splitter that changes how people look at homemade equipment. With just 2 liters of fuel, it can split 7 logs in roughly half an hour each, depending on the wood and conditions. That may not sound like a commercial production line, but for a homemade machine, it is still impressive. But power comes with risk. A machine like this must be handled carefully, because rough builds can be less predictable than factory equipment. The mobile bandsaw is not a factory line, but it should not be underestimated. With a strong motor and a sharp blade, it can handle heavy-aged logs and turn them into useful lumber. It is a practical tool for anyone serious about processing wood outside a full industrial mill. Sometimes mobility matters more than scale. If the saw can come to the log, the whole job becomes easier. If this video has already impressed you, drop a 1-inch in the comments. Your support helps Industrial Timber keep bringing more real machines, clever builds, and serious wood processing action. Then someone points out that one tree could have built an entire new house. And honestly, That says a lot about the value hidden inside big timber. A single large trunk can become boards, beams, firewood, or material for future projects if it is processed correctly. Waste the cut, and you waste the tree. The magic of a strong splitter is often hidden inside the gears. With a 6.5 horsepower motor, this machine lets the operator control force more precisely for cleaner, sharper splits. The gearing helps angle the wedge correctly, making each cut faster and smoother. It is not just about horsepower, it is about how that power is delivered. Speed and force have to work together, or the machine wastes energy. Then comes a custom splitter and shaker that proves firewood processing can be quiet and fuel efficient at the same time. Powered by a remote diesel engine, it delivers strength without unnecessary noise at the operator position. That combination matters. Less noise, smoother operation, and strong output make the machine easier to work around for longer periods. Power and peace in one build is not a bad formula. One older splitter brings back the feeling of machines a grandfather might have used. Pure muscle, heavy steel, and simple function. There is value in that old-school toughness. But times have changed. Safety can no longer be treated as an afterthought. Honoring the past is fine, but cutting corners around exposed force, blades, and moving parts is not worth the risk. A good machine should work hard without putting the operator in unnecessary danger. Running a circular saw is like handling pure cutting power. The teeth bite straight through the grain, leaving clean, smooth cuts behind. When the blade screams to life, the whole job changes. Even hardwood starts to give way under the speed and sharpness of the saw. But that same power demands respect. A circular saw can dominate the job, but only if the operator stays in control. Finally, clean and safe cutting starts with solid wood support. A sturdy base improves grip, reduces movement, and makes each cut faster and sharper. It is a small upgrade, but the payoff is huge. Better stability means better safety, better accuracy, and better results. In timber work, the support system is often just as important as the cutting tool itself.